This question is asked all the time in the hobby of watch collecting. What should my first watch be? And that's a very difficult question to answer because there's just so many great options to recommend. So in this video, I will compile a list of 7 watches that I would highly recommend to a beginning watch collector. But if you're someone out there that's already an established watch enthusiast, this should still be a list of 7 great affordable watches to consider adding to your collection. With these watches, I tried to span the entire gambit of different types of movements, of different styles of watches, so there should be something for everyone out there. I've also set a price limit on the watches I mentioned in this video at $500. I just think it's a great place to start in the hobby of watch collecting, and if you're just beginning, you probably don't want to spend more than $500. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Okay, so the first watch I want to recommend is actually the most affordable on this list, and it's actually the Casio AE1200WH, otherwise known as the Casio Royale. So this Casio is just an absolute legend in the hobby of watch collecting because it offers such insane value for money. This watch comes in around $30 and has great specifications for that price. For that roughly $30 price point, you have a watch that can keep track of multiple time zones. In fact, you have up to 31 different time zones to choose from. You also have a map in the top right corner and 100 meters of water resistance and a stainless steel bracelet. So altogether, it's an outstanding package. Not only is this watch on this list because of its insane value for money proposition and its very affordable price tag, it's also on this list because this watch has a very strong modding community, and there's a lot of different resources and videos out there that'll teach you how to change this watch and modify it in a lot of different ways. When you're just getting into the hobby of watch collecting, I think it's really cool to learn about changing different bracelets and straps, opening up the case back of the watch, and to have a $30 piece here, it's pretty low risk if you mess up. And really beyond all of that, I think Casio is just such a great place to start in the hobby of watch collecting. You can learn so much about horology and watch collecting just through the lens of Casio. So again, for a cheap price tag, it's a great place to start. The next watch I would recommend to a beginning watch collector is the Seiko SRPK series of watches. So this includes the SRPK 87, 89, and 91. Those all have different dial colors, but they're all basically the same watch. Okay, so many years ago, if you wanted to get yourself an entry-level Seiko watch with an automatic movement, you could pay under $100. But unfortunately, those times have come and gone, and now if you want an entry-level automatic Seiko, you have to pay about $300. And although that seems like a pretty big hike in price, that still is pretty good value for money, especially when you look at these Seiko SRPK models, which in my opinion are some of the best looking watches in all of Seiko's catalog. Now I could go into some detail about why this watch, in my opinion, has pretty decent value for money. But really, beyond the 100 meters of water resistance or the pretty decent movement with hacking and hand winding, really the main reason why I love recommending this to new watch buyers is the fact that you have a see-through case back. And I think it's really cool for new watch collectors to really start to understand what the movement is, how it works, and just see all those really fine details that make it all come together. I think most beginner watch collectors just really appreciate that inside look into how a watch operates. I think it's just really cool to see those fine details, like I said, and whether the movement is highly decorated and highly advanced or not, I think it's a really cool thing to see. I can't tell you the number of times I've shown someone my open case back watch and really tried to explain them how movement works and how it all comes together, and I think it always is something impressive to see. But like I said, in terms of these particular Seiko models, I think they just look really, really classy, great everyday watches. Again, pretty decent specifications, rock solid movements, and for about $300-ish, I mean, it's a pretty good deal. If you are just getting into the hobby of watch collecting, you'll very quickly realize that there are way better spec watches and higher quality watches than this particular Seiko lineup. But I do think Seiko is such a great historic brand that demands respect, and if you bought this watch, you can own it for the rest of your life, and it would have a lot of meaning, and it would be just a great piece to have. So in my opinion, having a watch like this is never a bad thing. Okay, so the next watch I want to recommend to beginners out there is the Orient Bambino. Now that watch is always highly recommended, but I want to specifically highlight the new no-date 38mm version. So for those of you that are unaware, Orient is a great brand. They're actually owned by the same parent company as Seiko, so they make great reliable watches. And their most popular watch out there is the Orient Bambino, which is essentially a dress style watch. And basically throughout its entire existence, it's always had a date window at the 3 o'clock. And although it's a minor detail, it's something that I personally do not enjoy on my watches, and especially don't enjoy on a traditional dress watch. So with Orient's release of the Orient Bambino without the date window, I couldn't help but talk about it here in today's video because it really is such a perfect watch when you remove that date window. It becomes such a classy, great looking piece. I've seen these watches just look so good compared to even Cartier watches, Rolex watches. They just look great on wrist. They're really, really classy pieces. They fit well, they're modestly sized, and they're gonna be rock solid pieces as well. And just like the Seiko before it, you're gonna very quickly realize that this watch does not have the best specifications in the world. It doesn't have a sapphire crystal, it doesn't have a high-end movement, but what you're getting here is a watch you can be truly proud of that really looks the part. And at the end of the day, isn't that kind of the most important factor? That you like the look of your watch, that you're proud to wear it, and that it looks good on your wrist. I mean, those are the things that are important to me, and I would imagine that's important to every collector out there. And again, just like the Seiko before it, this is a piece that'll look great in a watch box full of high-end luxury pieces. So if you advance into the hobby that much that you're buying super high-end pieces, it will fit in perfectly fine. Okay, so the next watch I want to recommend to beginner watch collectors is the Timex Marlin Jet. So Timex is pretty much one of the most well-known American watchmakers in the entire world. They've been around since the 1800s, but for the longest time, they really haven't been super relevant. But that is until really the last 5 to 10 years, where they've been really just killing it with all of their designs, and this Timex Marlin Jet is no exception. The Marlin lineup is one of the most iconic series of watches from Timex, and this Marlin Jet is just a great looking watch. I mean, that really is what this piece is all about. Again, like the Orient, like the Seiko, it's not gonna have the best specs in the world, but it really is a beautiful, beautiful watch. It kind of is in that dressy, everyday sort of middle ground in terms of its style. And one thing I really like about it for beginners is that it introduces you to different complications. This particular watch has a 24-hour sub-dial at the 9 o'clock. And like I said, it's just a great way to start introducing folks to the idea of different complications and the different capabilities of mechanical wristwatches. This watch also features a very modest 38mm case size and a see-through case back. And as I already mentioned, I really value a see-through case back, especially for beginners. It's really great to get your eyes on the movement. And again, it's really fun to look at this particular movement and understand how it all works. And another reason why I really like this watch for beginners is because it's what you might call a strap monster. It's a piece that'll definitely look good on every different type of strap out there. NATO straps, leather straps, rubber straps even. It really is such a versatile looking piece. Again, it's kind of a daily piece that leans more dressy. So I think you could really dress it up or dress it down, make it more sporty, less sporty, and it'll look really great. It comes on a really nice looking Perlon strap, which is another great introduction to the world of Perlon/NATO straps. But again, yeah, overall, just a really great value for money, a really great looking piece. And again, we're talking about watches here that are great for beginners, and this one is an ultimate example. Okay, so the next watch on this list is probably going to be one of the most controversial, and that is the Omega MoonSwatch. So for those uninitiated, the Omega MoonSwatch is a piece that is inspired by the Omega Speedmaster, which is a very popular and very expensive luxury watch from the brand Omega, and it's very notable for being the first watch on the moon. It accompanied the astronauts on the mission to the moon back in 1969. And this watch is essentially a collaboration between Swatch, which is actually the parent company of Omega, and Omega themselves to create a very affordable version of this design. And instead of it being a mechanical watch made out of stainless steel or precious metal, it's a quartz or battery-powered watch that's made out of basically plastic. So a lot of people have disliked this watch because it really comes off as a cheap imitation of the original thing. But the reason why I really like recommending this to new collectors is because it'll introduce you to the world of Omega, and not many times can you get a chance to experience such an amazing brand for an affordable price. My first ever watch was a quartz Omega DeVille, and although that piece is not particularly significant in the world of watches, it's not made out of precious metal or super expensive, what it did for me was really allow me to discover the name on the dial, look up Omega, learn about their history, and that is what kickstarted my love for wristwatches. To me, it was just an invaluable experience to have such an amazing brand on my wrist and allow me to kind of start learning about the world of watch collecting, the world of horology. And again, I really think it's a great place to start in terms of just learning about how amazing watch collecting truly can be. So again, I totally understand this is not the best watch in the world to recommend. It probably won't last that long. I don't really know how it's going to hold up over time with this plastic or what they call bioceramic case. But what I can say is it'll probably jumpstart your interest in watch collecting and give you a sense of pride when learning about the hobby. Okay, so the sixth watch on this list that I would recommend to beginner watch collectors is the Tissot PRX. Now there is a quartz or battery powered version of this watch along with a mechanical automatic movement version of this watch. If we're going to keep the budget under $500, we're going to have to look specifically at the battery-powered quartz version. And in a lot of ways, the Tissot PRX is just a layup in terms of getting a great piece on your wrist. Again, Tissot is another great brand that it's awesome to learn about. And this is probably the best-selling watch over the past 5 years that's not named Seiko or Casio. And yeah, I mean, it's just a huge fan favorite piece. Everyone seems to love the design of this piece. I think it looks really classy. It looks really great. It honestly can play well as a sport watch or as an everyday piece. And in my opinion, you just can't go wrong with the Tissot PRX. In some ways, it might be a little too played out because it is such a high selling watch that, again, people are probably sick of at this point. But again, it really is a great value for money. You can get a lot of the quartz versions of this watch for super cheap these days, probably around $300, maybe even less. And for that reason, I think it's just an easy no-brainer piece to start with. And although that quartz movement inside the Tissot PRX might not be super sophisticated or special, what you do have is a watch that's extremely well finished for the money and has a really nice bracelet for the money. So again, if you're just trying to get a great feeling watch on the wrist that looks really good and acts the part of a high-end luxury piece, the Tissot PRX is the way to go. And the last watch I would recommend to a beginner watch collector is the Citizen Promaster Eco Drive. So Citizen is a really great Japanese watch brand that is known for their reliability and especially known for their Eco Drive movement, which is essentially a solar-powered quartz or battery-operated movement. These movements are known for being absolutely rock solid and will almost never fail on you. Of course, they keep time super accurately like any quartz movement. And I recommend the Promaster Diver specifically, even though there's a lot of watches from Citizen that have this movement, because I think it's great to get some exposure to dive watches and really experience the tool side of watches. I think dive watches could honestly be the most popular segment of wristwatches out there, so it's really great to, again, experience a dive watch, learn how the dive bezel works, learn about more of the history of dive watches. And again, if you just want a really solid piece that's going to be super accurate in terms of timekeeping, it's going to be super rugged, can handle any situation, a high level of water resistance. I believe this has 200 meters. This is the way to go. And actually, this is a watch that is ISO certified as a dive watch. So basically, that just means it meets the specifications or parameters for being a proper dive watch. So yeah, this can certainly be trusted in any condition. And with that Eco Drive movement, there's going to be basically no maintenance on this watch. You won't even really have to even change the battery. So if you're looking to get into the world of watches and really want something tough that you don't really have to worry about too much, you don't want to worry about servicing costs or even changing batteries, this is certainly a great option for you. And it's important to reiterate that if you're someone who is not a big fan of this dive watch style, Citizen still has a large catalog of watches with the same Eco Drive technology that are not dive watches to consider. But yeah, that is my roundup of 7 watches that I would highly recommend to a beginner watch collector. But as I mentioned in the introduction, if you're someone who is not a beginner watch collector, I still think this is a great video full of 7 watches that have high respect in the watch industry and that are of great value and all under $500. Please do let me know in the comment section down below what watches you would recommend to beginners, and also let me know what your first watch was. I'd be very curious to learn what you first got and what got you into the hobby of watch collecting. And if you enjoyed this video, I would greatly appreciate it if you can give this video a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you.